Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
You are the voice of the Sports Fix. So pick up your phone now and call 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And we are off and running with another week here on the Sports Fix, you guys, as we plow on through the month of October. Welcome in, everybody joining us. So far, so good. We're just going to stay in a happy mood and hope that things continue here technically behind the scenes to grow that way. Don't forget, if you're looking, though, we are T-minus 7 days until we get the infrastructure rebuilt behind the scenes here with the bandwidth and the uploading and all of the things that make this happen. So 1 week and counting until we are upgraded once again back where we were. But we're upgraded today to a, hey, Charles, that's right, rare Victory Monday. Especially, hey, listen, man, we're going to have some fun today, you guys, as we've got a lot of things to get into. But absolutely, I mean, you can only bash and beat and belabor things so much that you also have to enjoy the flip side. And besides the fact that the Browns won the game yesterday on the road in Baltimore, first time in nearly a decade. 2007 was the last time they did that. But it's not even just that, because they had good fight the week before. They lost the game in a way that was just, as we said, Brownsy at the end. But they had the fight the week before too, and that's the word, the fight, man. I mean, that's a lot of, I think, what, if anything, bolsters me up about the game that I watched yesterday, besides the fact that was a heck of a football game. That was a hell of a football game. If you don't think so, then you just don't like football. You don't like the Browns, whatever. I'm sure my man Bruce will jump in here real soon and tell me how it was just another game on the schedule. I disagree. I think it was a hell of a football game. Well fought. And that, if you're a rivalry situation, which they traditionally should be, even though obviously the results with the Ravens and the Steelers and them haven't been what they wanted on the wins and losses, but that's the type of stuff you get there. You go to somebody's house, you have a game that is back and forth like that. Listen, we're going to go into the ins and outs. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland is going to join us here. We're going to talk all about this Browns victory here yesterday and the impending Denver Broncos coming in on the backside of this, all of the NFL. How about Cincinnati and Seattle? Hell of a game there. But just the fight in general of the Browns is what I was pleased to see the most, on top of course, getting the cherry on top with actually winning the game. And if anything, in a late game scenario, very similar from San Diego to this week, you see progress in the method of coming out with the W at the end instead of the way I'll tell you, I was sitting here calling the final score going the opposite way with seconds left, because the way it looked like it may once again play out that way at the end for the Browns, but they didn't. So that's something to talk about. But coming back from double-digit deficits on the road in a hostile atmosphere, especially when your season is swirling right there. And I mean, really, if the Browns had lost yesterday, especially if they had lost the way it looked like they were going to lose early on in the game, when at first it looked like Baltimore may be having a practice session here against the Browns in the first couple of possessions of the games as they got the early lead. But the Browns fought it back, chipped it back, played a hell of a game. That was a team effort. Well, on the offensive side of the ball, because once again, the defense didn't show up overall, but they did stop when they needed to stop, hold when they needed to hold, made a few plays here and there, just enough, although defense was just a vague rumor on both sides of the equation in yesterday's game. It was just a mandatory part of the game. It was much more offense. And how about the offense? How about Josh McCown? I cannot believe the fact, we were just mentioning last week that who could believe the fact that no Browns quarterback had thrown for the only the small grouping 300 yards back-to-back games. I mean, it was a very we couldn't believe it. We were like, are you serious, Bernie? These guys didn't do it. And then you add yesterday. Now Josh McCown can say that he has thrown for more yards in a regular season game than any quarterback. Otto Graham, Bernie Kosar, Brian Sipe that ever wore a Browns jersey. It's funny how there's not a whole lot of great ones after that. You got Ryan, you got a couple of other ones, but that's about where the great quarterback list ends. But either way, the top of that now is Josh frickin' McCown, if you can believe that one. And his 3-game total, the most of any Browns quarterback in 3 games. Now, I'm going to buffer that with this and say that in today's NFL, with the way the offense has exploded, it actually speaks volumes for how bad offensively the Browns have been for the last 20-plus years, that in an era where, seriously, guys you've never heard of are throwing for, large passing yardage week in and week out for the last 20 years. The fact that the Browns' passing records were still held from decades of the 80s, and some of them even earlier than that, 60s and 70s, and the fact that in today's era those numbers hadn't fallen yet says, boy, we've really been behind the times. So I'm not 100% surprised by that, because I think that if you went across every franchise's record books right now, you would think it would be the more modern players who would be at the top, only because they've kind of weakened the statistical accomplishment by overemphasizing offense in today's NFL. But either way, it's still, who would have thought of all the names? I mean, all the names over the years, that's the one that's going to put his name in the record books. Does it last? I don't know. But it's been a heck of a hot hand for the last couple of days. Very much like that run that Josh McCown had with the Bears a couple of years ago. They went 3-2 in his starts. When he had that good run, was it 13 touchdowns, 1 interception? Very similar numbers to what he's doing now. He's got an 8-1 at this point so far on the season, and that interception that he threw was at the end of the Raiders game there. Very similar statistically to that, and that's the run that he's on now. And he has fueled this Browns offense when they've had to find their running game and get it going, and when the defense hasn't been there. He has definitely, and he's done it with, it's not exactly the Ace Boone-Coon set of wide receivers and tight ends out there that are Pro Bowl bound. Gronk and Edelman aren't weaving the seams in and out for Tom Brady in this offense, and yet he's done a great job of working with what he's had so far. And I'm gonna get into the intros, and we're gonna open the phone lines for you guys. But I laughed so hard at Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas is the man, by the way. And did any of you guys catch his first comments after the game yesterday when they asked him what he thought about the game? He said, "Put in Johnny. I think we should have put in Johnny." I love it, because the tongue-in-cheek was right there with the sarcasm, and pretty funny stuff. Anyways, we're going to talk about all of that, you guys. We're going to talk about the Major League Baseball playoffs. We're going to talk all the games in the NFL. Ohio State may be getting offensively untracked here for the first time. All that stuff. Monsters kicked off their season over the weekend. Cavaliers resume their preseason tonight. Dan Wismar is going to talk about all of that with us and more. We're going to open the phones. We're going to do it. So welcome in, you guys. I'm sure you're ready to get going. Let's do the thing. Welcome in to the Sports Fix. I am your host, the Big Daddy, on the microphone. J-Rocc here, Jerry Myers, whatever you want to call me. Call me, happy to do it. I say it all the time. It's so cliched. Do the Sports Fix thing here and be glad to be here. And that's what I am every day when we crack the mics live. Maybe you're listening on TuneIn, TuneIn's radio app, worldwide on Spreaker and Mixlr and their respective digital and mobile applications. Perhaps you're enjoying the show on our home base, thesportsfix.net. Make sure you bookmark it if you haven't already done so. Or perhaps you're one of the thousands listening to the show and enjoying it and getting your fix around the world, 24 hours a day, different time zones, digital delay on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, on iTunes, on Stitcher Radio, on all of the other various platforms, podcast formats, subscription feeds, all the different ways that you guys do the thing. I again say thank you so much for being here, because without you, this thing doesn't happen. And this is the Sports Fix, and you are the voice of the Sports Fix, so do just that. Pick up your phone and give us a call. 216-539-7535 is the number to call. 216-539-7535. As well, you can leave your message on that same number 24 hours a day. 216-539-7535. Facebook and Twitter is the easiest way to get a hold of us anytime, day or night. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. And you can always email us, TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Guys, tweet it up @TheSportsFixCLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. We're talking all starting with the Cleveland Browns once again. Maybe you missed it. Maybe you were boycotting them yesterday. I don't know. You actually missed a good... See, you know what? That's the problem with them being the way they've been over the years, is that when the fans that wait forever and say, no, I'm not giving up, when they do finally say, this is the week where they don't have a chance. This is the week where I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to go take care of that gutter cleaning I had to do. I'm not going to give them another Sunday, because, guys, I heard that a lot, more than usual in the last week to 10 days. Honestly, I've heard that a lot from a lot of people. I think I mentioned it on one of the shows last week, that my news feed the other day, last week, I had never seen a Sunday where my news feed was full of, and I'm not blaming, this is something that I have no problem with if it's your way of dealing with the situation. Just full of people saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give them my Sunday. I'm not going to let them. And especially because, remember, last weekend, it was coming in off of just an incredibly poor effort that the team gave, where they just really gave that embarrassing showing of themselves. And then they bounced back with a much better performance last week in a loss. But again, I was hearing a lot of that again this week. And if you did, here's the problem with the Browns driving you crazy, is you would have missed a hell of a game that was worth watching. And this was one, especially when, as I say, think about the end of the first quarter and the Browns are down 14-3. And it was really not looking like this thing was going to, definitely wasn't looking like it was going to end up 33-30 in favor of the Browns at the end. I mean, I don't know how you could have added up and thought they'd get to 33 points, because at first they could only get the field goals going, as they were having some trouble finishing drives and getting things going. Although, again, I think the defense walked the line a bit there in giving up some plays, but they stopped them on a couple of drives. Also fortunate at the end of the first half to get this swing where you missed the field goal on one end, and then the Browns come back and get the last-second field goal, which at least made it a 14-9 score heading into the second half. But in the second half, it was a much different story. Browns offense did get loose, opened up offensively. Josh McCown had some great drives, and that's one thing that you've got to say, and I think we all talked about this after the first game, when he went out after that very first drive and got hurt, how he had one of the longest drives that the Browns had put on in years. That appears to be a specialty of Josh McCown. I mean, we've seen it here now every game for the Browns that he has been the quarterback, is these long drives up and down the floor, or up and down the field. He has been able to sustain drives, and that's something that for years, seriously, and I'm not saying this, I think, in favor of Josh McCown as much as maybe an indictment of the other quarterbacks that the Browns have had over the years and the terrible offenses that we've had. That ability to stay on the field, even if you only get 3 points at the end of it, is huge to letting your defense stay off the field. We are, at least I am, definitely pleasantly surprised by that part of the game with Josh McCown at the quarterback, as he has had these long, sustaining drives. He's had several of them in every game. Those are huge. Those allow the rest of your team to catch their breath. Not that the defense is using it to tear the world down. I'm not saying that, but look at the opposite. I mean, there's definitely the opposite is a lot of 3 and out. We've seen that over the years. I mean, matter of fact, it wasn't the Browns, but I think I saw a couple weeks ago the Bears. Every possession they had in the game was a 3 and out. There, your defense cannot be happy after that one. But the long sustained drives, that is something that I think shows the poise of a veteran who's been there. And I mean, clearly, that is one thing you can say about Josh McCown. He's got some size, he's got an arm, but he's been around 14 years, various things. And to me, and I've said this about other guys that have been kind of journeyman guys that have gone from system to system. To me, the one good thing about that is that you've been in so many different systems over the years, is that you really have seen a little bit of everything. And I think that does have some substance when it comes down to putting the game on the field. Anyways, I have been pleasantly surprised week to week here by Josh McCown. As you guys know, I was in no way jumping up and down and saying, hey, this is my favorite free agent signing. I mean, it is what it is, and I figured, as Dan and I had said, and Dan's going to join me in about 15 minutes and jump in on this conversation, but as Dan and I had talked about when he came, Dan said, hey, I don't think he'll do worse than anything that we've had at the quarterback position, particularly last year with Brian Hoyer. And in all fairness, he's gone beyond just that. It's moved beyond just not being worse. I mean, this is probably, stop me if you disagree, but this is probably the highest level of consecutive games of quarterback play that the Browns have gotten in a stretch. And this is still, we're only talking about a 3-game stretch here. There's a lot of other football left to be played, but I'd say maybe when Derek Anderson had his hot run there at the end of 2007, and he was just lighting it up. And look at the similarities. Although Derek Anderson wasn't the well-traveled veteran, he was big, he had the big arm, there were certain characteristics, and you've got that here with Josh McCown. And Josh McCown, hey, listen, he's a tough son of a gun. I will also say that is one thing that these Browns have said to a man, is that this guy, and I think that says something in any team, whoever the quarterback is, when he jumps in the huddle and he's got the little blood running down his face, or he just took a nasty shot and he gets right back up in the huddle and looks at the guys and smiles, and maybe he's missing a tooth. Okay, they don't do that anymore, but you know what I mean. I think that bolsters your whole team. Much like, hey, look at that drive in overtime. And it sounds like I'm just piling on Josh McCown, but every once in a while, a performance does definitely deserve the kudos. I think what the best thing about that drive into overtime was that he got hurt halfway through it, and he said it after the game. He said, you look down, you make sure it's still connected, and you jump back in the huddle. There's no thinking about coming out of the game. And the shot was nasty. If you guys saw it on the replay, well, guess who else saw it? The other players on the field, on your offensive side of the ball. And when they go back in the huddle and they see you jump in, and you're not jumping in going, oh, man, boy, I'm hurting. You're jumping in going, let's go, next play, here we go. I think to a man, I know I would be motivated. I know that I would play a little bit harder watching that guy play like that. And I think that's part of his attraction. I mean, he's never going to get the kudos for being more than what he is. And he has not won a ton of games in his career, but he's a big, tough quarterback. He can take a shot. And I think that he's shown that when you show some confidence in him and his teammates, whatever he's got, his teammates are buying into it right now. And I do believe that he was as big a part of anything of the Browns winning that game yesterday. I mean, really, you can't speak enough for his ability to extend plays when it looks like he's in trouble, extend drives when third and long, you might as well have just got the punter up and had him punt on third down over the last however many years for the Browns, but they're able to convert those third and longs on certain situations. Just anyways, that's the presence that he's brought, and I have to give him credit because I was quick to bury him when he came in. So far, so good. And again, I think a lot of the other guys rally around seeing that. So anyways, back to the game, though. The second half, you really began to feel that this game was starting to go in the Browns' favor. The defense, for what it's worth, got you a couple of stops, got you a couple of 3-and-outs, came in and was looking much better than they were in the first half of the game. Meanwhile, your offense really got things going. But if you're anything like me, I think you still saw the doom coming at the end of the game, because I was doing the math with the clock just like everybody else, and I'm going, man, the Browns are leaving too much time. You hate to say that when you score at the end, that they're leaving too much time, but they were leaving too much time, and you knew Baltimore had enough time to come down the field and steal this thing at the end of regulation. And you're thinking, damn, here we go again. Browns will, be able to say we fought hard and we just couldn't finish it off. And I'll tell you what, I'm a big believer in finding good in a loss, and I'm a big believer in finding bad in a win, because that's the only way you get better. I very much scratched my head in the last 1 minute and 5 seconds of that ball game or regulation, why Mike Pettin did not handle the clock better. And I've seen that is another one. When I talk about things that he needs to work on, that clock management, to me, is one of them. And boy, was he fired up at the end of yesterday's game, or what. The smile on his face couldn't have been more, the relief couldn't have been more obvious. But anyways, with a minute left, and Baltimore, once they got within the 10-yard line and it was first and goal down there, you knew that they could not get another first down. At that point, they're going to run the clock down to the last second and kick the field goal to tie the game if they're not able to get it into the end zone for a touchdown. So to me, you burn your timeouts on first, second, and third down, and you leave yourself 55 seconds is what the Browns would have had left at the end of the game. Instead, they didn't call the timeout until after the second down play, so they let a whole 30 seconds run off the clock. Now, it didn't matter. The Browns won the game, and I'm not going to go crazy about this, but the Browns got the ball back with 30 seconds to go in the game, tied at 30, and they should have won the game, because if you notice, they got the pass down the field. They got the second one as time expired to Benjamin. They were in field goal range there. Had you simply had that 25-second runoff or so that you allowed to go there, there's the difference. You kick the field goal, and perhaps you avoid what may have happened in overtime, but it didn't happen. The Browns defense, again, able to hold. The Browns offense came, and that was a nice drive in overtime. What was that, 12 plays in overtime? McCown gets hurt in the middle of it. I think it was the fourth or fifth play on that drive, and they kept going, finished it off. It was a great drive at the end of the game, and a great way for the Browns to go on the road, snatch one from the Ravens, and bring it back home. And again, you've got to give credit where credit is due across the way offensively. Gary Barnidge, I laugh, by the way, for those of you that get the Cleveland Plain Dealer, my favorite newspaper, my man Bruce's favorite newspaper over there. But I saw Tom Reed writing up something about this show, or the game. I saw it while I was getting ready for the show here this morning, and he was talking about Gary Barnidge, and he said, oh yeah, because everybody saw that coming, him being good this season. And I'm like, yeah, actually I did. I'm just keeping it real. I'm not saying I said Gary Barnidge is the next Gronk, but I'll talk to Dan when we come back. He didn't like the Browns tight end. I said, hey, I like Gary Barnidge, man. And I know you guys know I'm a Madden guy. I play some Madden. Hey, he's always done quite well for me. But I like Gary Barnidge, and I thought that he could be very effective as a pass catcher in this offense. And he has been. He's set career highs a couple of weeks in a row. He's got some athleticism. He's not just a big ugly man. He's, as you saw with the catch heard around the waist, the legs, the nether regions, between the thighs, and that catch was something unreal. I mean, seriously, that Barnidge catch was one of those ones that you'll see the replay of that for a while to come there. But Gary Barnidge has stepped up. But anyways, when I saw that, I said, hey, maybe that's because you listen to the same people that say the same things. They all just repeat each other. But then again, those are the same people chanting, we want Johnny. Can you believe this, by the way, that after yesterday's game, I still had some people telling me that they weren't impressed and that they don't care what the Browns do. They want Johnny in. I said, I give up. I said, I don't even know what to talk to. I can never talk to you again. I don't even know. Can just hit me up when you want to talk about the Cavs or the Monsters or something, because I ain't got no time for you to talk if you just let those words come out of your mouth, because you can be saying a lot of things today, but that ain't one of them. That ain't one of them after yesterday's game. And that's why I laughed so hard at Joe Thomas and what he did there with that guy. I thought that was hilarious. He said, put in Johnny, and I know he's not the only one, but Got a kick out of that. End of the day, end result, the Browns 33, the Ravens 30, and overtime victory. And really think about it. Going back to it, I'm not saying changes the trajectory of your season. There's a difficult schedule coming starting next week with the Denver Broncos coming to Cleveland. But there's a lot of difference in where they're at now than where you could have been 1-4. As we know, with these next couple of opponents could turn into 1-6, and then that darkness gets uglier. Week after week after week of talk, social media, radio, all of that stuff getting darker and darker and darker just builds to those ugly, hey, man, we live through this every year. You don't need me to explain to you what the month of October turns into November, and then what happens when November turns into December, and it gets uglier, and it all starts to take on a life of its own. That may still have yet to happen, but as of now, it's much different to sit where you are. In Baltimore, they're sitting now 1-4, and you know what? That's a different vibe for them over there, because I was talking to some people and I was looking at the media around town this week. They were looking at Cleveland as a win. They were looking at Cleveland as a way to get themselves back to 2-3 here, get a win in the division, get their first home victory of the season, and instead they're kind of shocked as now they're sitting at 1-4, 0-2 at home. Couldn't happen to a better set of guys. And I'll be honest with you, unlike Pittsburgh when they had that turnaround last year, I don't see that happening for the Ravens this year. Offensively, they're going to have some trouble because they've got everybody out, and as we've seen, the passing game has to get going, and they don't have their starters, and they're missing some pieces, and the defense has got holes. They've got Forsett, and you notice, not having Taliaferro yesterday, I think, cost the Ravens down at the end of regulation, because you were missing a couple of when Forsett went out there, you missed a couple of big guys who had the chance to try to bowl that ball into the end zone instead of getting the field goal to send it there. I think that may have helped the Browns as well. But I think the Ravens are in for an ugly season, especially having lost that game the way they did yesterday. But the Browns 2-3, that's great. Got a road win, that's even better. Got a division win, that's the best of all. Hey, I think the Browns love to send me those stats, that they send every week with the post-game notes. First time that the Browns have been 1-0 to start the season in the division. I want to make sure I get the date right. Since 2004, it's been 11 seasons since the Browns started divisional play winning their first game of the divisional schedule. So there you go. They're 1-0 in the North. A couple of other notes to take out of the game. It was the Browns' first overtime victory since they beat the Ravens in overtime. 33-30, exact same score the last time they played in Baltimore and won back in 2007. Isn't that a freaky coincidence, by the way? The last time the Browns beat the Ravens in Baltimore, it was November 18th of 2007, 33-30 in overtime. They wait 10 years, 8 years to do it again. It's the exact same score in overtime. That's just a freaky coincidence. Also, it was the first time the Browns had played in overtime in general in 5 years. 2012, 4 years. Dallas, the Cowboys game, was the last time the Browns had played a game in overtime. Also, 505 yards of offense, most the Browns have had since 2007. And you know what? That's that Derek Anderson year. That's kind of what I was throwing back to there. That Cincinnati game, that coming out game for Derek Anderson, 554 against Cincinnati. That's the most offense the Browns have had until yesterday's game. A lot of the third down conversions, that was something I was just mentioning. The ability to turn the chain on those drives. The Browns tied a franchise record yesterday with 12 third down conversions. I mean, unheard of, especially for a team that is very much poor over the years on third downs. I mean, the Browns have been one of the worst third down teams in the league since they've come back. The only other time they did 12 in a game was back in 2008 when they played the Seahawks. And Josh McCown, as I mentioned here, 36 of 51, career high in both of those categories as far as passes and completions. A Browns single-game record, 457 passing yards. Bernie did have 489 but that was in a double overtime game against the Jets. This was the regular season record here. 457, 2 touches, no interceptions, a 111.3 rating. Also had the rushing touchdown. First player in Browns history to throw for 300 yards in 3 consecutive games, and his 1,154 yards in 3 games, Browns record. But as I mentioned, I would think every franchise, that record would be owned by a modern-day quarterback because the yards are so much easier to get. The game is offensively so much more wide open that the fact that the best 3-game stretch by any Browns quarterback went all the way back to 1980, that'll show you the caveman days that this offense has lived in for the last couple of decades. Because I'm serious. I'm willing to bet that every other franchise has got modern quarterbacks that have that record simply because you guys see every week. Backup quarterbacks come in and have 300-yard games a couple of times a season. So, but anyways, the previous records were Brian Sipe. He had 444 yards back in October of 1981. McCown yesterday, 457. And you look at the past 3 games, and it's just a 3-game stretch. But I'll tell you what, I don't know how you can even say if you continue to get this play, because I don't know how can you expect to continue to get this level of play out of Josh McCown. But if you can, this offense is going to continue to put up these numbers because Barnidge has been playing. Benjamin has been playing. Both of those guys have already got career highs in tons of offensive categories. And I will say this too. I like offensively the way the Browns, because they've stunk at getting the running game going this season, I like how they've really used the passing game. Those short passes, those little pitches and the quick bubble screens, they're really just long handoffs. That's all they are. And they use those in lieu of running plays. They look like they're going to be, and in the record books, they're passing plays, but they effectively run out as a predetermined running play. And so when you see those, that's real. Look at it. You know, the Browns, and we all yelled at Shanahan last year, 29 receptions all season long to the running backs. Right now, through the Browns just beginning part of the season here, they've already got 29 receptions to the running back. So they've already thrown or completed as many passes in the backfield and to the backs as they did in all 16 games of last year. And we've seen it when you look yesterday. Crow and Duke Johnson really turning into an effective little 1-2 punch there as far as the ability to not just run, and really they've shown when they're getting shut down in the running game, although they did get a few when they needed it down at the end, but that opened it up with them each getting a shade under 100 yards receiving, but they're both contributing there with the catches out of the backfield, and to me it's just a different extension of the running game. So all of those things coming together, the offense has definitely held up its end of the ball. The defense, another side of the story. And I'll tell you, this is an easy test coming up here. We can say, let's see this. Let's see now this offense face what, in my opinion, is, at least up until this point of the season, the best defense in the NFL. Because I think that the Denver Broncos, at least statistically, would answer that category as the best defensive team so far. Seattle has not lived up to the hype yet consistently all season long. Denver, I'm pretty sure that they lead the league in sacks. They're up there in turnovers. They're getting interceptions. They're all over the place. As you know, they've got the ability to get after it. Defensively, they've got some great defensive backs that are going to really cause some challenges in the passing game. It's going to be interesting to see what the Browns can do. I saw, what was it, Sharp, on a couple of the post-game shows yesterday. I saw Shannon Sharp, though. He called the Browns a trap game for the Denver Broncos, which I was a little shocked to hear that, although it definitely fits that quote-unquote definition because it's a team that you expect to win, and those are always the ones where there's the possibility. But, man, it takes a lot. I do believe that the Broncos have yet to get untracked offensively. We've seen it. Oakland was able to kind of stifle that offense again yesterday. Their running game is in shambles. I know because I drafted C.J. Anderson, number 6, in one of my fantasy drafts, and he's worthless. I can't even trade him. I mean, he's just worthless. He's like Trent Richardson this season. That's an insult. I'm sorry, CJ. I should never. You don't call people Trent Richardson and get away with it. But anyways, their offense in Peyton Manning trying to adjust to that new offense, still a lot of work to be done. It's a work in progress, and so I got a funny feeling that Peyton Manning gets a little healthy next week. But either way, the defense is the side that the Browns need to be worried about. Let's see how hot the hot hand is now, and I hope to be coming back next week and going wow. But I'm not going to get there now because we got Wednesday. We'll look ahead to next week. But that's a real true test here. The Denver Broncos and that defense, quite legitimate, coming in here to face the Browns next week. But we're not going to go down that road because we're sitting here today and enjoying what the Browns did. Looking forward to talking to Dan Wismar on the other side of this break here. And we'll see what his thoughts are on the game as he watched it play out. Browns now 2-3 after 5 games and heading into the home game here coming up with the Denver Broncos. We're going to talk about all of this here around. As I said, did you guys watch some of the other games? And, sometimes when you've got the slate of games that doesn't look all appetizing, you end up finding a few. There were several. I think, what were there, 3 overtime games happening practically at the same time with the Browns? You had the Seahawks game, and give the Bengals credit. I hate to even use those words, but this is the Seahawks we're talking about. The Seahawks were leading, was it 24-7 at the end of the third quarter. And they let Cincinnati plow back in the fourth quarter, send that game to overtime, and then get the victory. Cincinnati now undefeated once again to start this season. I don't know yet where I'm at with the Cincinnati Bengals because every week or every season we talk about them, and those cats, they start hot. They're regular season heroes, all of that stuff. But then at the tail end of the season, they're one and done in the playoffs. But man, to be able to do that with the Seahawks, and I know the Seahawks are still, a work in progress themselves here this season. But man, says something there. Cincinnati putting something together. That's going to be. I can't wait to see how their season continues to play out. So far, though, they have continued to roll as they're undefeated. Who else went to overtime yesterday? At the same time, the Falcons and the Redskins, and then that game ends with the pick 6 in overtime. It was like Kirk Cousins tosses that one up, but I think they were all on at about the same time yesterday. Other than that, Kansas City, Jamal Charles. Not that this is a big surprise if you are familiar with his career, because he's traditionally had the major injury almost every season, and it looks like it happened once again. Waiting for confirmation, but it looks like a torn ACL, and that's going to be the end of another season for Jamal Charles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Ugly there. You hate to see that, but he's sometimes guys are that guy. Jamal Charles traditionally cannot get healthy for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll look around. We'll talk some more about that. Buckeyes, speaking of getting healthy, may have offensively started to get healthy a little bit the other day against Maryland. We'll get into that, talking to MLB playoffs and Chase Utley and so much more with Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan and Everybody Hates Cleveland. Dan's going to join us next. Coming up, we'll get you a news break here, catch you up with the action. After the news, Dan Wismar joins us live talking Browns, Buckeyes, baseball, Cavs. So much to get into. You've just joined us. Let's rock and roll. Dan Wismar, next, after the news, here on The Fix.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor, because of this city, we owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. .com. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. All 4 of baseball's division series take the field today. Every game available on ESPN Radio. The last game tonight will be Game 3 for the Mets and Dodgers in New York. Will Chase Utley be able to play for the Dodgers? He's appealing a 2-game suspension for taking out New York second baseman shortstop Ruben Tejada and breaking his right leg in Game 2. That appeal could be heard before tonight's game. Matt Harvey pitches for the Mets tonight. Lefty Brett Anderson for the Dodgers. The series tied at 1. So is the other National League Series, Cubs and Cardinals, with Game 3 tonight at Wrigley Field. In the American League, the Astros and Rangers both 1 win away from advancing at home. Texas leads the Blue Jays 2-1. Houston leads the Royals 2-1. And that game starts our coverage today at 12:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. Monday Night Football on ESPN, the Steelers and Chargers in San Diego. For Pittsburgh, wideout Martavis Bryant comes back from a 4-game substance abuse suspension. For San Diego, tight end Antonio Gates comes back from a 4-game rip for PEDs.
Hilton.com gives you unbeatable prices on hotels across the U.S. So when your team travels, you can too. Scream your heart out and then sleep your face off. Unbeatable prices on 12 unbeatable hotel brands. Only on Hilton.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you, rolling on. Good show, good kicking off the week here, and a good way to do it. Hey, man, they give us the ugly and the good, bad, and the ugly. You know, when you say the good, bad, and the ugly, I think the good gets the short end of the stick most Brown seasons. The bad and the ugly cover 3/4 of it. So today, a hard-fought Browns victory. I was telling somebody yesterday while we were watching the game, a bunch of us sitting there, and I said, I don't know about you guys. I said, now I grew up on the Steelers being, obviously as a kid, that was the rivalry. I don't know, though. To me, and you tell me, I still am an anti-Pittsburgh guy. I always joke with my friends that I hate that I got to take it out on the Pirates because I don't actually have a beef with the Pirates, but they unfortunately suffer the Steelers' wrath. But I look at the Ravens. To me, if you were to say, what team, if you could be one team all season, that's the team to me. The Steelers are right there at number 2 or 1A, 1B, however you want to put. But to me, it's the Ravens because, of course, they are the Browns. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, that's just, I don't know. Maybe you're different about it, but that's, we were going down that rabbit hole yesterday, and the guy goes, hey, why do you say that? And I said, because 3 months after the Browns packed up their last tackling sled and moved it to Baltimore with the first pick in the draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Ray Lewis, and then on it went. The evolution of that is this, and you know where I'm going. So to me, that almost makes it more. I don't know. And I guess if you're an older fan, it wouldn't matter. You would have had the Steelers rivalry with you longer because there wasn't a Ravens rivalry until they ripped the team away and became the Ravens. But if you're anywhere in the last half, although they've stunk so much that you can't have a rivalry with anybody until you can consistently win games. You know, when you can go to Baltimore and win 3 years in a row, all of a sudden the Ravens will be up for you to come in every time to Baltimore. It's a small step in the process. But anyways, to me, the Ravens are over Pittsburgh even, although it's very, very, very close for various reasons. Welcome back in, guys. Talking to Dan Wismar here in just a moment from Everybody Hates Cleveland and the Cleveland Fan. We're going to talk some more about the Browns, talk about the Buckeyes and all that. You guys keep your thoughts coming in on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Twitter @The Sports Fix CLE. Email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Missed a couple of calls earlier. We'll get to them and open it up later. Right now, going back to the phones, Dan, my man, how you doing?
I'm doing great, J-Rocc. How's things with you?
Things are doing all right, my man. I'm feeling good here today. Obviously, we've all got a reason to have a more pleasant Monday than usual. Good weekend overall for the Bucks, for the Browns, and some good games in general. How you feeling today, man? I mean, that was a heck of a football game yesterday and individually contained.
Yeah, it was a crazy game. I think I figured out the secret to the Browns winning on the road. I don't watch the game live.
That's it.
I was working yesterday at my house. I was putting some stain on my deck, and I was outside all afternoon working, and I had the game on the radio, and so my wife and I would go to every game at home together, and we sort of watch the road games together. She was inside watching the game tape delay, and I was outside listening to the game live, so I'm ahead of her, and she's not allowed to come outside because she might hear the radio I'm listening to, and we ran that charade all during the game yesterday. So I ended up watching the game last night, and you're right, very entertaining. You know, I did have a feeling, though, and I think you'll agree with this. Neither of us are shills for the Browns, even though Bruce would like you to think that.
I had to yell at him. By the way, I just had to go in the chat room.
We see the flaws, and the game really, even when it was over, was almost. Even though you're really glad they won, it was unsatisfying because there's still so much wrong.
Oh yeah, very
with
much.
This team, and you see flashes, but really there's a lot to be concerned about because the defense continued to be horrendous, and no one thought this team was going to score 60 points in the last 2 games, but that's what they've gone out and done. And but the defense remains a big concern, and so even though there was some satisfaction in winning, boy, you've got to just still be concerned about how the defense is underperforming.
Right, because that's something that I've been saying, especially yesterday. We were talking, a bunch of us after the game, and I said, okay, to me, you can look at this one of two ways. You're pleasantly surprised at the offense, and obviously. I mean, that's a bone, and that's why I said if I've had some guys go, well, if I can just get this out of Josh McCown every week, good luck, because this is a high level of quarterback play right now, and I'm just saying, even high level quarterbacks don't maintain that level of play that's. Good luck. Let's see how long this can run. He's done a great job so far. And I do believe, like I mentioned, about extending the drives, things like that. Those are things that we have not consistently had quarterbacks do for a long time. But the one side of the coin is that the offense has been better, and it's overperforming compared to expectations. Flip side, defense severely underperforming. So my question, and when you look at the way the rest of this season is going to go, this is like the catch-22 of it. What's more likely to happen? Is the script going to flip? Are you going to get, because if the offense comes back to earth and even just begins to perform back down to average, not necessarily at this higher level that it's been at, but the defense continues to be, this is the real defense, then you're in trouble, and it's going to get ugly the rest of the way. Meanwhile, what's more likely to happen? That the offense goes back down and the defense comes back up, or one and not the other? And that's the thing that you've still got to find out.
Well, first of all, you're not going to be playing a team that's really not good on defense like the Ravens, and really you could say the same thing about the Chargers.
Absolutely.
But I'm optimistic
Yes.
the offense is going to continue to perform because you do have a solid offensive line, and you, basically on that side of the ball you've stayed relatively injury-free. You don't have big-time playmakers. That's a given. That's an understood, just sad reality. But
you got Dwayne
Johnson
Bowe. Come on, man. You got Dwayne Bowe.
Pierre Crowell, who were two decent backs. Dwayne Bowe. Yeah,
he played yesterday, didn't he? He played.
You got a good line, and obviously you've all of a sudden made your tight end the focus of your offense. Other teams are going to come and try to take that away from you. So you'll play better defenses, but I still think I'm optimistic about Duke Johnson, about Pierre Crowell as a decent 1-2 punch in your backfield. Even though you haven't been able to run the ball, you've been throwing it to him like crazy, and that's something we've been calling for a couple of years. It's finally starting to come around. I think it's time to give DiFilippo some credit. The broadcasters of the game yesterday were doing a little bit of that, but you've got to give him credit for calling a good game and getting the most out of what he's got. Even though everybody would agree that what he doesn't have is scoreboard changers, is big play people.
I agree with the big play thing. Real quick, you mentioned Barnage, and I said earlier, I don't mind every once in a while bringing up the ones that I get right, man. And I remember you and I talking about the offense way back, maybe like March or something like that. And I said, hey, I like Gary Barnage as a tight end. I think that he can do something. I think he's a very athletic guy for his size, and he's got good hands. His problem was in the blocking game, and that's why the Browns have to utilize different tight ends with the different skill sets. But as a pass receiver, he's a very good target, and I think we're beginning to see him start to unroll. So I do like that. But I wanted to ask you about the play calling and about McCown. What I was saying in the first segment and yesterday with them converting 12 times on third down, unheard of for these Browns to be that effective. But in general, even on that first drive, he got hurt in week 1, and then since Josh McCown has come back the last 3 weeks, the Browns have had more sustained offensive drives than I can recall in quite some time. So many 8, 10, 12, 14 play drives that this team has been missing, and whether it's with using the check downs, however it is, between the long drives and getting those third and longs, which again, 3rd and 12 used to be just punt now if you were the Browns before. They're able to convert some of those, and I give Josh McCown a lot of credit for being able to extend these plays. There's something about Josh McCown. He has the ability to have long drives.
Well, and part of it is DiFilippo making a call. For years, Jerry, the thing that used to just make me absolutely tear my hair out was throwing a 6-yard pass on a 3rd and 8. The Browns are famous for doing that. And that's one thing that we're not seeing from DiFilippo here. We're seeing, plays that are designed to get the required yardage. If it's 3rd and 2, there's no sense throwing it 40 yards down the field. Get the first down. That's what he's doing. He's sending Barnage out. He's sending Dre out. He's hitting Duke Johnson on a little flare out in the flat. He's doing things like that to get the yardage, move the chains. And obviously there's a certain amount of flexibility that McCown has in which way to go with the ball. But for the most part, I think he's running the designed, called play that has a primary target. And for the most part, DeFilippo's been able to engineer things to make sure that guy is open.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that. But wouldn't you say too? That's another reason that I'm. It's a less of an excuse for the defense to lean on even more. Is for years we've talked about those offenses hanging the defenses out to dry, keeping them on the field so much. The more you get these, and I don't have the overall season-long time of possession for the Browns and the other team, but the more you get these long, sustained drives, the more rest you give that defense, which maybe takes an excuse away from them on that side of the ball. What did you think of the Browns' defense yesterday? Because for the most part, they give up the plays that they don't need to give up. Anytime you go, man, here, and then there goes a run, or especially in the run game, they're still atrocious at that. But, then you get to the middle part of that game, they meandered their way, and I don't know if it was the Browns' defense or maybe just the Ravens' offense struggling, but all of a sudden they got a bunch of 3-and-outs that you didn't even notice it. You go, hey, man, that's a couple in a row, and it enabled the Browns to come back in the middle part of that game.
Yeah, it was just piecemeal, though, and it was not really sustained. And when it mattered, fourth quarter, once you took the lead twice,
they came right back.
In each case, after taking a fourth quarter lead, they just gashed you right down the field. And, how they were unable to score first and goal at the 10-yard line with, a minute 20 or whatever it was to go remains kind of a mystery to me. But because, they were having 6, 8, 10 yards of pop just running the ball off tackle.
Hey,
so
you know what, Dan?
They really kind of screwed up in their play calling there, I think.
Speaking of that, the other two earlier in the game that I can think of, touchdowns deep in the red zone that were so. How about the play fake? And this is some bad defense on the part of the Browns. How about the play fake and then Flacco just taking it off to the left? There wasn't a defender from the middle of the field over on that side of the field.
that was amazing. I mean, you had a wide camera angle, and there was not a white jersey in the picture. I mean, that was really kind of amazing, and it really been commented on by the announcers. But that was amazing. And the same thing happened last week when the Chargers play faked down the 1-yard line, and the tight end was open in the end zone with not a Brown within 10 yards of it.
Baltimore used that same play yesterday that San Diego used, and that's how they scored that touchdown, if you remember. They did the play fake, and he broke open, and the guy was just streaking wide open out there in the left upper corner of the screen, if you were watching it on TV, of the end zone there. That was practically that same play that San Diego used the week before.
Right, yeah, except San Diego just went straight over the middle, and there wasn't anyone in the same area code with the receiver, so... Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating that down on the goal line there, you're aggressive, but you're aggressive to the point of being dumb, and you're aggressive to the point of being predictable. And that's not something that any defense wants to be.
I mean, anytime you run a play and it's executed, you go, great, we did well. But I just know that the Ravens have to sit back and watch that quarterback keeper and go, I don't think we've ever seen it quite as effective as this right here. I was watching I replayed it 3 times, and there were still Browns players as Flacco's crossing the goal line trying to tackle the guy with the ball, or they didn't have the ball, but the guy that they thought had the ball. I'm like, look, they're still diving in the pile. Flacco's signing autographs over there, man. Like, it was amazing how, and that's scary to me, how your defense can leave that much of a gap, because again, these things look great and it's easy to talk about them in the context of a victory, but the other way around, and these are all the reasons that you lost the game and all the reasons that everything is falling apart and all of that. So, like I said, I believe in, some people don't. I believe that you look for the bad in a victory and you look for the good in a loss, because there's no You still have to play the next week. Either way, the time management, there's another. While we're looking to balance the scale, I'm curious what your thoughts were, because I fully believe that had Mike Pettin not mismanaged his timeouts at the end of the game, the Browns wouldn't have had to go into overtime, because they cost themselves a full 30 seconds that they would have had they just simply called the time. I think Mike Pettin did not realize it was first and goal, because here's the thing. If it's first and not goal, they can get a first down and run down the clock to the end. If it's first and within goal, then you can actually stop the clock all 3 times, and unless they score a touchdown, you're getting the ball back with a bunch of time left on the clock. I don't think he realized it was first and goal, because he then called the timeouts on second and third down. But had he called the timeout on first and goal, he would have saved 25 whole seconds off the clock, and the Browns would have easily had the time to spike after Benjamin's last catch there on the 30-yard line or whatever it was, and perhaps avoid the chance of things going wrong into overtime.
Yeah, that's true, and that was a little bit of a head-scratcher. I guess if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I don't know, frankly, if Pettin commented about it or was even asked about it after the game, but if you're giving him the benefit of the doubt, you're thinking, well, he wanted to, hang on to one timeout to use during his, subsequent possession. So
I guess
that gives him credit for having considered all the options and chosen one. I'm not so sure that happened, but certainly you're right. It was a head scratcher when he's got under a minute and he's got all 3 timeouts and he decides not to use one. Because the best thing that can happen, obviously, is what happened. They weren't able to score a touchdown. They kicked a field goal. And had he known that would have been the outcome, I'm sure he would have used all 3 of his timeouts.
By the way, speaking of time management at the end, I have an issue. And I'm not going to lie, because, some people can't think for themselves in the media, and I love listening to people just jump on things after the show. And I was driving in Radio Network or whatever, and they were, the Browns just won. McCown had a really good performance at quarterback, and I want the other quarterback to be the quarterback that I'm specifically talking about. But they were criticizing the last few plays of regulation, how McCown, because the announcers on TV, if you notice, criticized McCown taking too long to make the decision and costing the Browns some time on the clock. And I'm going, well, what would you prefer, TV announcers, that he rush the throw and throw an interception so that you can talk about the latest stupid way that the Browns lost a football game? Would you prefer that he move a little bit faster so that it gives you something different to talk about? Because I just found that amazing. Like, you're tied. This is not a desperation situation. Either we're going to get it or we're going to go to overtime. They're critiquing this guy for taking an extra 3 seconds before deciding where to pass the ball. And then I heard the post-game announcers use that quote to criticize McCown. And I'm like, come on now. Now that to me is an unfair criticism completely.
Yeah, you're right. It was. But they do need something to talk about. You're right. It was reaching a little bit to be criticizing the quarterback that just threw for 450. And won the game.
Did you hear that at the end, though?
Some time management issues, yeah.
Yeah,
that
you heard
crazy.
that. Yeah, or they're like, well, if he would have got rid of it a little quicker, he'd have had okay, but he was checking all 5 receivers. Nobody was open. Okay, I'm sorry. To me, if you're losing, now, yeah, okay, you got to do something. I get it. Like, but it wasn't that scenario. This was a scenario where you controlled your own destiny unless you did something stupid like rush a throw and turn the ball over,
Yeah, that's true. That would have been fodder for the mill then if he had thrown an interception. I don't know. I didn't like the broadcasting team, but we're stuck with the E or F team typically when the Browns play on the road. They don't exactly get Phil Simms and Jim Nantz.
No, they usually get the worst that's out there. It just makes you want to pull your hair out. The problem is that, with today's technology, telecommunications, you can't line up your TV and your radio anymore like you used to, because satellite's got a different delay than cable. Cable's got a different delay than the straight television feed, and the radio has got the real time with a radio delay. So none of them ever match up to the radio to where you could just listen like you used to the radio, you know?
Oh yeah, I used to do it all the time.
Right.
Especially back when Gib Shanley was the play-by-play guy. I used to love Gib, and I would, if I'm sitting at home watching the game, I would listen to the radio by choice all the time.
Oh, yeah. My dad raised me that way. We would flip on the TV and flip on the radio and hit the mute button, and it was Coleman during. Yeah, we would listen to the Browns game, and that was the way. So I grew up on that. But then it was a decade and a half ago that you started going, man, how come the TV doesn't match the radio anymore? And it's because of all the delays and all that. So it is what it is, man. Browns do come out with a win. It's much better to be 2-3 than 1-4 and looking into the abyss of the next couple of weeks, like Denver coming in next week. I got to be honest. I laughed when they called it a trap game for the Broncos, but like you say all the time, this is what the NFL is all about. Is who knew what was going to happen next week? Who knew where things were going to go? And I think the Browns can make a game of it. I think the problem is even if Denver's offense is still getting themselves untracked, their defense is not. To me, I called it the best in the league so far this year, and that's going to be one hell of a challenge for this Browns offense.
Yeah, no doubt. Nobody's going undefeated except your Patriots, of course, Jerry.
Of course, Patriots, baby.
And I think we still have either 5 or 6 unbeaten teams here. After 5, I think. And, no better time for Denver to take the fur to Cleveland next week. And I'm sure spinning memories of 86,
Elway,
87, 88, whatever, some of those great games against Denver. Not only one of them, I guess, in Cleveland, but it'll be some memory lane walking as this game approaches, especially with the Hall of Fame quarterback comparison. Going back to Elway and Peyton Manning. So be interesting. Give the writer something to write about this week. But, I thought the Browns would, give a good accounting of themselves in San Diego, and I thought they would give a good performance in Baltimore. And they've come out back and given their flaws, have competed great, and I'm happy with it. I'm not happy being 2-3, but there's a game or two that they probably should have won. I think they're still a better team than the Oakland Raiders. But you can't be too upset with the performances of the last couple of weeks, and unless you want them to lose, like some people.
I don't know anybody like that. Do you? I don't know.
No.
But seriously, you bring up the Raiders. I was going to talk to you about, and Wednesday we'll really look at the Broncos game specifically. But they struggled with the Raiders. Did the Broncos yesterday, and all season long, the Broncos have sort of played a little bit to the level of their competition, and that offense is still getting itself rooted into the whole change of the system that they're going with there, and really they've been relying on that defense for the most part. So I think that because of that, it's going to be a game, and I think that the Browns are I think it'll be competitive. I don't think that the Broncos offensively are where they need to be. Problem is that teams do get there against the Browns, and I wonder if this isn't the game where Peyton Manning starts to get healthy with that offense, and all of a sudden I'll have C.J. Anderson on my fantasy bench, and he'll run for 200 yards and set some NFL record or something for touchdowns. But outside of that, I do think that the offense is an issue, but man, that defense, there's going to be a lot of questions. But again, Oakland took it to them. That was a game that came down the wire. You mentioned undefeated teams. Cincinnati. Did you at least go back and see the highlights of that game with Seattle? Because it was at the same time as ours. I'm watching the game. It's 24/7. Seattle's blowing them out, and you're thinking, oh, there you go, Seattle team. And no, they come back and tie that game and then win it in overtime.
Yeah, and I only saw some of the scoring highlights. I saw they were down in the fourth quarter by 17, and it really is remarkable how they came back. And I guess they were just throwing down the middle to the tight end, and went to it a couple times, worked both times for touchdowns, and you got to tip your hat to them. They're playing good ball, and they're not beating the dregs of the league. I mean, this was the Seattle Seahawks after
Seattle,
all.
Man. Yeah,
they've had some big games against decent teams, so. Playing at a high level, and clearly the favorite. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the Baltimore Ravens are out of the race in the division. You don't come back from 1-4, especially when you've got a team that's 5-0.
You're 4 games back.
You're done. Even this early, no one expected the Browns to compete for the title, and still don't. So, I think we're looking at a Steeler-Bengal kind of a race, and the Steelers are sitting 2-3. So. It's a great start. The games count just as much in September as they do late.
Yeah, we'll see
as in baseball.
Absolutely, exactly, and we'll see with Ben. How long it takes him to get back for the Steelers. I mean, really, this division the division. Now, there's still wild cards and stuff, but this division may already be wrapped up just because of what we're talking about right there. I mean, you've got if Pittsburgh, Mike Vick, we'll see tonight how he does with that offense. They're getting Bryant back. They got obviously Le'Veon Bell last week, a huge addition, back to that team or whatever. But we'll see what Mike Vick can do running it. But if they don't keep pace, at least at this point, if they drop a game or two in the next few weeks, I think Cincinnati's sitting there with a 3-4 game cushion on everybody, and they're just going to walk to the division title. What do you think about the Bengals? Everybody's telling me, well, they're going to fade late and they're going to be one and done in the playoffs, and I hate Cincinnati, so my gut says I hope that's true. But man, like you said, these are decent wins, and they've struggled and found ways to win, and then they've had games where they've looked great, and then this one here, that late comeback against a Super Bowl pedigree defense like the Seattle Seahawks. What's your gut tell you about these Bengals?
Well, it tells me that they've continued to draft well over the last several seasons. They've built a lot of depth, and they have good talent on both sides of the ball, and they've got that sort of stigma of being a team, obviously for good reason, that can't win a playoff game, and so no one is really taking them seriously. And you've got that, they'll lose their first playoff game. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but and you got to get there, and they're doing a great job. So I just think it's a function of finally, after having boneheaded drafts like the Browns for years, the last several seasons they've really put it together and drafted extremely well up and down, top, middle, and late rounds. I mean, they've done a great job. And their roster is just way improved over the last 2 to 3 years, and it's starting to show in the win column.
Yeah, I agree. They're drafting. That's the biggest change to things here, man. And that, as we've mentioned, you'd be surprised how your fortunes go when a team drafts well too, man. I don't know, man. We talked about the slate of games here this week, not always looking the most attractive. A lot of games played out the way you thought. Green Bay winning big. How about, did you get a chance to see the Patriots and the Cowboys late, or no?
Just a little bit. I saw just a little bit of that game in the second half. It was like 20-3 or something when I was checking in with a 20-6 or something like that. And it didn't look like the Patriots were ever. Saw a little bit of a blurb this morning about how the people that were so excited and satisfied with Brandon Weeden playing quarterback, not quite so excited after three straight losses there.
Yeah.
And Brandon Weeden started doing Brandon Weeden things, and who expected that?
No,
so,
not Brandon Weeden, really? Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, that's blooms off that rose too. So. We'll see if maybe Jerry's calling Ray Farmer to talk some Johnny Manziel now. We'll see how it goes the rest of the way.
He's back on the job, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Hey, Jamal Charles again, man. Did you see that? He went down. Kansas City cannot.
Yeah, that's awful. And there was I can't remember who the name of Nick Chubb from Georgia, the kid. The great running back from Georgia had a similar kind of gruesome knee injury Saturday, and you just hate to see these star players go down. I mean, it's just so increasingly apparent, Jerry, that the human knee was not designed for football, least of all NFL football. Just like the human elbow was not designed to be a major league starting pitcher. I mean, it's just become so routine that the joint just doesn't hold up under the kinds of strains that it gets day in, day out, and that's why the average career of an NFL running back is about 3 years.
And that's the one place where I won't let people, because I'm as old school as anybody with the whole we're tough back. And the one place where I won't let people go is like what you just said, because you've got to realize that you can say, oh, well, how come 20 years ago, 30 years ago, these guys were getting hit the same and they weren't? Because the average NFL player has tripled in size in the last couple of decades. And not only does that mean a much bigger and faster and stronger opponent is hitting you, but you're bigger as well. And when you carry more weight on your frame, it also puts more stress on your own joints. But at speed, even though the speed of the game, it's still the same game that you're playing, everything has gone to another level. And even without steroids and stuff, it would have, because our world is a bigger world than it was 30 years ago. The average human being in general is bigger, taller, wider, So the stress of the game at the speed that they play, like you said, it's just shown that the human joints, more than the muscles, or the joints just cannot take that, and they go. Jamal Charles, though, some guys just seem to be, and I don't want to say injury prone with something like, but he is one that almost every season suffers a major injury.
Yeah, and it's really too bad because he's such a great player.
He's
in
great.
fact,
Yeah.
you know me, I'm a big Jimmy Brown fan, and speaking of which, before I forget, there's a really good article about Jim Brown, written by Tim Layden at Sports Illustrated. If you look that up, he writes at the Monday Morning Quarterback site, and in fact, I just linked it on my Twitter feed just this morning. If you have a chance to take a look at it, it's very, very good. But, Jim Brown, the only running back in averaged 5 yards or better per carry for his career, until Jamal Charles came along. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Jamal Charles is still, for his career, at an average per carry of better than 5 yards. Only running back ever since Jim Brown to do that. So that just is, testament right there to the rare company that he is in, as to what a talent that he is. And it really is a shame, especially if this is a real serious situation. But you're right, he's been injury prone. And speaking again of Jim Brown and size of players, and maybe the reason he never missed a game in 9 seasons is that in 1957 he was 6'2", 230, and there weren't, they were, that was the size of a starting offensive tackle in 1957, 6'3", 225. So you're right. But even back then, 40 and 50 years ago, here's Jim Brown, 6'2", 230, running back. No wonder he never got hurt.
Right. And it makes you, while you're saying that, the thoughts in my head are going, what would happen? Now, you can't do this, but if you drop Jim Brown into today's day, do I believe he could be as good as he was? Because I argue with some buddies of mine about this. Like some guys that say, hey, man, it's a different day, and he was playing against a bunch of short, lesser talented, less athletic guys than they are. And I said, I'll give you that. But Jim Brown was an athlete of the ultimate level, that whatever the highest level of his era would be, he would achieve it and then some. So even though the bar would be higher today, he would just raise his own level, and he would as well be higher with that bar. But I wonder, would he survive health-wise in today, like what we're talking about here, because these guys are so big? He didn't have guys as big and or bigger than him chopping wood on every play.
Yeah, that's true, and he's sort of well known for always wearing only the absolute required number of pads. He didn't like to wear hip pads. He didn't like to wear anything. He didn't like to wear thigh pads. Only what was required. And when he did get hurt, he would never go to the training room when anybody else was there, because he didn't want anybody else to see him, getting medical attention. So a proud guy, and a guy who played hurt, played in a whole year with a broken toe one year, if I recall. And but you're right, it is hard to envision him. Certainly he could play today because he was fast enough and he had great size. And you're right, he would elevate his game. But he wasn't getting hit by 6'5", 250-pound linebackers on every play. Sam Huff was a big guy. Dick Butkus was a big guy, but not by the standard speed and size of the NFL defensive players today. That's the big difference. But certainly he had the size and talent to play in any era.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. Dan Wismar is over there. I'm J-Rocc. We're talking a little bit about the Browns here coming out of the victory over the Baltimore Ravens last week. And, I'll tell you what, I brought it up earlier. I wonder if you are on the same page with me. I find it amazing. We talk about McCown accomplishing some record. That's great, and that's fine for the record books. What I found amazing is that the Browns still had single game and 3-game passing records that went all the way back to 1980. The fact that in today's era of super high-charged, really cheap offensive yards, in my opinion, I mean, it's so much easier to get offensive statistics in 2015 than it was in 1975. It really shows how bad and how dearth things have been at the quarterback position for the Browns for decades. And it really doesn't surprise me that McCown did, say the 3-game total of 1,150 yards. I'm willing to bet that if you checked every team in the NFL, it's a modern quarterback that holds that record for all of them just because of the overflated statistics of what used to be compared to what's now. So what surprised me most wasn't that he did it, that were set 40 years ago plus.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. If you check every NFL team, I'm sure they'd have more recent records than that. You really do have to go back to Kosar, and that goes, almost 30 years ago. I mean, his career started a little bit over 30 years ago. So you do have to go back 3 decades to find anybody that had any high level of productivity in the passing game, and that would be Bernie Kosar. So, yeah, you're talking 30 years.
And you and I mentioned last week we couldn't believe that the list was only, Hoyer, McCown, and Sipe, the only ones, and Otto that had done the multiple back-to-back, the 300-yard games. Now nobody's done it 3 in a row. And again, I find that hard to believe, but no Browns quarterback all these years, none of the greats, none of the mediocres, none of the bad have done it. And here's Josh McCown sitting at the top. And his buddy, Gary Barnidge, if Barnidge catches a half a dozen passes next week, he'll replace Ozzie Newsome at the top of several single-game and beginning-of-season records, be the first Browns tight end since him to do several things. Who'd have thought that in 2015 we'd be replacing the names Sipe and Kosar and Newsome with McCown and possibly Gary Barnidge?
Yeah, that's hard to predict. And I have nothing against Gary Barnidge. I will continue to maintain, though, that what this team really needs as much as anything else is a big, Jimmy Graham type,
Gronk. One of those guys.
Offensive weapon, downfield weapon at the tight end position. It could help immensely. Obviously, a couple of Calvin Johnsons wouldn't hurt either. But
no.
That's one thing that this team has really lacked in recent years is a real offensive weapon at the tight end position. That's just I continue to maintain that has to be a high priority for this team, either free agency or draft.
For sure, along with a couple. By the way, Bo, I was joking with you earlier. I had no, because here all week they had been talking about he was practicing and he was ready to get back out there, and then they just made him inactive. I think that there's an underlying story here going on with the Dwayne Bowe situation, because he was made inactive and there was no talk all week long about any type of an injury issue. It was, hey, he's back in the mix and he's ready to come back out here this week. Keep an eye on that one, you guys. Because that was a late scratch. But one other note about the Browns before we move on. A question mark that you and I had, and you were really on this a lot in the preseason, was the kicker and the place kicking for the Cleveland Browns. And we were both scratching our noggins like, man, we got a couple of who are these guys, young kid coming in here, some untested kickers. There's no veteran kicker for the Browns. And Travis Coons, he won the job early. They kicked the competition to the curb, I think, in week 1 or 2 of the preseason. And the kid has started the season perfect. Obviously, he's going to miss one eventually, but he's made his first 11 field goals. He's also 9 for 9 on extra points. He made the overtime game-winning field goal. Surprising to you? I am, only because I had no clue where this kid even came from, to be honest. And thus far, he's done quite well.
Oh, yeah, you've got to be happy with perfection. I was nervous about the whole field goal situation, really the whole off season, because they were making no moves. And like you, I didn't know until yesterday when they said it approximately 7 times that he went to the University of Washington. You know, and that was news to me. I wasn't really sure where he'd played his college ball. But yeah, I mean, how can you be down on him? I was prepared to have it be another flaw on a multiple flaw team. But you know, and that may turn out that way too. But so far, remarkably consistent, and you know, doesn't seem to be rattled. Keeps his cool and puts it through. So, yeah, you know, ride it while you can.
Absolutely. Hey, injuries coming out of the game. Joe Hayden, he is back in. He's going to be in the concussion protocol, it looks like, because he ended up leaving that game late. I don't know if you've heard, because I know Mike Pettin did his presser, but we're on the air, so I have not gotten the notes of that yet. But obviously, that may be it's very rare. Do these guys come back in the first week after that? So here, you not only got Peyton Manning coming in, but you may be missing Joe Hayden back in the back there. And then, did I miss it, or am I correct? Scott Solomon injured, and perhaps very seriously, when he came back yesterday. He was out for the ankle, and I think he banged up his knee pretty good yesterday.
I missed that. I saw that he was back playing, but I did not see him get injured, and had not heard anything. I said I was kind of detached from the live action yesterday with all those going on, but saw him out there on the field, but had not heard about the injury. That's too bad.
I didn't see it.
You know,
but I didn't see it myself either. That's why I was asking you. But I was reading somebody who was just their game notes. It might have been Terry Pluto's game notes, a little blurb that he did after the game, and he just mentioned Solomon had just come back and he has been removed and appears to have been something serious during the game. So that would be a shame because he fought so hard to get back. But unless I'm wrong, I think he may have suffered perhaps a more serious knee injury as soon as he came back.
Tough break, and you have to wonder, as soon as I heard that Hayden had gone out into the concussion protocol, I thought to myself, well, they're surely going to sit him down one game just to punish him for messing him up last week, you know, with the probable and then scratch. You know, you don't do that, and the NFL definitely holds grudges. So maybe that's a conspiracy theory of sorts, but I got to believe that they might hold Joe Hayden out just because, well, Joe Hayden, you were in the news last week about your injury situation, and we're going to make sure that, you know, you're not probable for this week.
Let Joe play. Let Joe play. There you go. Now, we'll see what happens, man. Hey, I will say this. We were joking during the game about him. We're like, boy, nobody gets hurt as much as Joe Hayden. He tries to play through him, and I will give him that. But I don't know that there's too many more players that you can't go, well, he had this, and this wrong with him. Yesterday, he's got the finger broken. He's got the ribs injured. Then he hurts the leg. Then he gets a concussion. It's like, man, is there anything on Joe Hayden that doesn't get banged up? I give him credit for playing through a lot, but he is, again, another one that is always got the little bit of the injury bug against him, and then it ended up taking him out of the game yesterday.
Yeah, you're right, and I love the kid, and you got to give him credit. He's a tough guy. I know he clearly, I think, was having a little bit of trouble with the finger, not only, you know, trying to defend the pass, but also tackle guys. I mean, it's easy to understand. You know, I say it all the time. It's the toughest position to play in all pro sports, and it doesn't help that you're, you know, 5'9", 180. You know, trying to do the things that you have to do against the people you got to do it against. So yeah, just a lot of guts, and you got to love the kid's attitude. He likes playing here, and he wants to play, and you know, you got to just hand it to him. He's a tough guy.
Yeah, we'll talk some more about that and all this stuff. We'll see where the Browns sit on Wednesday. We'll start to look ahead to the Denver Broncos after yesterday. 2-3, coming off of a win here. And by the way, what a small world of coincidence. I mentioned this earlier. The Browns don't win for almost a decade in Baltimore, and then they win by the exact same score in overtime, just like they did yesterday. It's kind of a weird circle of the universe to come back to another 33-30 overtime win. It's just, how do those weird coincidences happen in this world that we live in?
Yeah, that's pretty strange. And just to even have to predict that they would put 30 points up on the board, no one would have predicted it. But
nope.
Yeah, it's eight long years since they went to Baltimore and won. That's That's depressing enough as it is.
That's depressing enough as it is, yes. And that's why I want to see what they do against Denver, because you got, 28, 27, 20, 33 points put on the board in the last 4 games here by this offense. So let's see what they do. And I'm telling you, if Denver's not the best defense in the NFL, they're in the top 3 at the absolute lowest. I'm pretty sure they lead in almost all defensive categories. They've got 20, maybe 30 sacks already on the season. They're balling over there on defense. That's going to be a big challenge.
Yeah. Having a healthy, active Von Miller, just that kind of a pass rushing force just screws everything up. And Bradley Roby's really coming into his own as a cornerback in this league, and I'd love to see that happen for a Buckeye. But hopefully he doesn't take one to the house this week.
We'll see. We'll talk about that, man. Speaking of the Buckeyes going to the house, they got there 6 for 6 in the red zone here this weekend, but it was a bit of a journey to get there against Maryland. My son looks at me, by the way, as this game was tied halfway through, because it's really the tale of the two ways. The game stayed, in one direction, relatively close, and then boom, you blink and you miss it, and the Buckeyes put 4 touchdowns on the board, and you get the final score. But my son Jerry looks at me and goes, Dad, how do you fire a coach who's got his team tied with Ohio State this late in the game? Would they win? I'm like, well, if they win, that dude's got a job for life. I don't care if they've already hired a new coach. If they somehow upset Ohio State here, he's keeping his job. Obviously, the game changed there. But what were your thoughts at that point there in the second half as that game was playing out the way it was?
Well, first of all, I have a lot of respect and sympathy for the Maryland players. I think we talked about that a little bit the other day. To have to go out and come to Columbus and play the number 1 team in the country, with the rumor that your coach is on his way out, that he's going to be fired after the game, seemed crazy. They played their hearts out. Give the Maryland kids credit, and especially that quarterback, who I don't think the Buckeyes were ready for a quarterback run-focused offense. At least they didn't look like they were. They didn't think the kid was going to scramble. He scrambled with impunity pretty much all day long. And I continue to be concerned about the Buckeyes as a team that you can run on. They really have not shown the ability to stuff the run, even with some teams that aren't particularly well known for being good at it. Penn State, the Buckeyes are going to lose a game this year, I feel. I just have said that from the beginning. And then it could be this week. It could be Penn State. They're going to come out wearing their black uniforms Saturday, and they'll have a hyped-up crowd, night game, and a great environment. But, that's a gauntlet they've got to run here with Penn State, with Michigan State, with Michigan coming down the stretch. And I have a feeling they're going to drop one of those games. The story of the game the other day there, Jerry, has to be J.T. Barrett, with Cardale Jones as our starter, and a hint that maybe when we got on the red zone, we might see J.T. Barrett. Well, not only did we see J.T. Barrett, but we see them go 6 for 6. Barrett scores, 3 touchdowns and 2 or 3 touchdowns rushing. And, he's the story of the game. The fact that we are 100% back now to a 2-quarterback system, and we weren't there when they kicked that game off. So to me, that's the absolute story of the week and of the game for the Buckeyes is quarterback controversy is alive and well, if it's a controversy, and teams are going to have to deal with it going forward.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that. What are your thoughts there on that direction heading forward? I know that that's always the premier position anyway, but I'm with you. I mean, do you create a Cardale Jones as the quarterback from 1 through 80, and then from 80 through 100, it's JT's job? Where do you see that going?
Well, first of all, I'm a Barrett guy. I love J.T. Barrett. Oh, yeah. I was glad to see him, in the game and back at it. I think they can make it work. Certainly, obviously, Urban Meyer has a track record of making it work with 2 quarterbacks. He won a national title with Chris Leak and Tim Tebow, and he knows how to do this. They had been struggling in the red zone. I think I heard there were 6 of 16 coming into the game in terms of red zone touchdowns. Excuse me. And they were 6-6 the other day. So he tried something and clearly it worked. It would be idiotic to go away from it. And both kids seem to be well situated with it, happy with it. At least they're saying the right things. Cardale Jones, hey, if it helps us win, I'm all for it. Team guys and their friends. So it's not as if there's a bitterness about the situation. Cardale knows it now after struggling for several games. It's not easy. What you did last year in those three games in the playoffs, it isn't all. And Barrett obviously bailed him out, so he's just effective. And the team seems to play well with Barrett at QB. The team seems to pick it up a notch when he's in there. Maybe that's just my imagination, but
no, I see it
clearly
too.
they're comfortable with him in there. And just like Meyer said last year, the offense just seems to work better when he's in there. So I think it's something that's going to stay here for the rest of the year, and hopefully they can just continue to make it work.
I mean, Dan, I see it too. That was when we were. That was why I was people that I know all the time. Cardale, no, I think you go with JT Barrett because I mean, and I think we're starting to see the reasons why. I mean, there's still so much development. I'm not in that era of modern, fan / wannabe talk show host speak where they all give that speech. Well, you go with the young guy. You develop the potential, man. When did that? I don't know when developing the unknown method of everything here in sports, but that's what it's become. And to me, I'm like, I think you have a better chance to win with JT Barrett. I'm a JT Barrett guy too. He sold me last season, and I just thought, man, that was my guy. But anyways, you're seeing this here, even though somebody was pointing out that if you look at Cardale Jones, what was I reading it somewhere this morning? Somebody sent me an article, and you look at his run here, and then what he did statistically in the 3-game run at the end of last season, it's no different. But the difference is the expectations. The difference is the starting point. When you're the third string freshman, never played, no expectations, in the hardest part of the season, hell, it's all bonus. Whatever you do is good. If you don't, it's okay because the Buckeyes were down to their third quarterback, and it's a shame how the season ended. Much different when you have to live up to those non-expectations than when you have to live up to the expectations of being the starting quarterback who almost pulled up for the draft after 3 games on the defending national champions with this huge offensive team that they're supposed to have. Huge difference in the way the exact same game would look under those circumstances.
Well, that's right, and if you look at all the statistics in terms of yards per game, points per game, obviously the record is the same, a better record than last year because they lost that game early, but yards per play, passing yardage, rushing yardage, those kinds of things, very, very similar to what this team was doing last year.
Yes.
You're right, though. The difference is the expectation. And they were a top 10 team last year. After they ran off a few wins after Virginia Tech, they were back up, and they sneaked back up in the top 10. They were number 10 or 9 or 8 or whatever coming down the stretch. But that's a whole different world when you're sitting there number 1, getting everybody's best shot every week. And the Buckeyes this year certainly have looked like they were tight, like they were nervous, like they were afraid to make a mistake. And Cardale Jones maybe among the worst offenders of that. So you're just right about expectations. I mean, you're expected to hang a half 100 on teams, and when you're not doing it, I even still thought that the 33 points for Maryland was way too many. The Buckeyes have not covered a line since Virginia Tech, and they were up 4 touchdowns, which even that wasn't as big as the line of 33. And they ended up winning by 3 touchdowns. But you're right, it was a weird game. You're tied in the third quarter, and then all of a sudden you're up 4 touchdowns. But at some point in time, you've got to just tip your cap to Randy Edsall and the Maryland players for coming out and playing their butts off.
Yeah, that was a team you could see the fight that they were fighting for their coach, for their team, etc. And when we're saying these expectations, I'm not just talking about media and on the team as a whole. Think about Cardale Jones as an individual. last year, you come into your situation literally from your coach to your parents to your friends to your teammates. They're all just going, hey, man, just do what you do, man. Anything you give us as a bonus at situations and everything else. And so his expectations personally. Now, in his own mind, he's not only dealing with being a child in a man's body, but in a man's situation. And now, every bad game you have, every interception you throw, you have people in your ear reminding you day to day, week to week, that that's costing you $millions, that's costing you money and potential draft positioning and your future. Like, there is no future when you're the third stringer college career at the end of a season. Now, everything you do, it's not just team, but it could affect you, and people are now reminding you of that on TV, on the news. You're flipping on the games, and they're going the highlights, Sports Center, and they're going, what's wrong with Cardale Jones? You got to wonder how that gets into the head of a kid. I give him credit for being able to sort as much of that out and phase it out as he can.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, last year it was happy-go-lucky, big smile Cardale,
right? Yeah,
and every week, because it was a kid on a lurk is what you were thinking about, and it's dead serious business every week, and we don't see that big smile quite as much, but. Yeah, you're right. It's a whole different ballgame. Now, he's no kid. He's 23 years old.
I know. That's a kid to me, man.
A 50-year guy in the program, but still,
hold on.
You're right.
Ain't that a kid?
In terms of quarterbacking a football team, he's still inexperienced. He's still in his first season of being a college football starter.
Dan, you don't tell me that you just said, come on, 23 years old is still a kid, my friend. That is
yeah. I got blue jeans older than that, but yeah.
But you know what, I'm with you, absolutely, man. And I will say, I laughed at, by the way, Coach Meyer after the game when the first question was about going 6 for 6 in the red zone, and he was like, "Excuse me, I didn't hear that question, but I just wanted to hear you say it again because."
You want to say it again? Yeah, 6 for 6.
Yeah,
that was fun with the media.
Absolutely, not taking yourself too seriously. I like that stuff sometimes too, and it was good to see, and maybe that gets that off of your back as they continue to go forward. I hear you as far as when will they stumble, because you've got to think they do. I mean, just it's the nature of the beast here. I mean, we saw it last year, and these.
Of course, this week everybody's talking about Michigan, Jerry. I mean, Michigan's put up 3 shutouts in a row. You got to, again, tip your hat to Jim Harbaugh. Hey, turns out the guy can coach.
Did you see that, though? I can't remember who it was. I know it was an ESPN guy because that was the headline on the article. But I saw somebody say that Michigan is now the favorite to win this conference. And I'm like, really? All of a sudden, Michigan is now like the power team in this thing. I mean, I get it. You want to run that narrative, but I don't know that I'd jump on that one right away necessarily.
Yeah, Robert Smith, as much as you can credit him, has Michigan as the top 4. I mean, his top 4 was Baylor, LSU, Utah, and Michigan, or something. At this stage of the season, that seems kind of crazy, but they're the hot item right now. They're the sexy pick right now. But we'll see this week. I mean, they play Michigan State this Saturday in Ann Arbor.
Yes.
And that's going to be a tough test. We're going to find out what they're made of if they shut out Michigan. But I still think the Spartans have the better team. But their shutout streak continue on another Saturday.
No, I don't think so. They did take care of Northwestern. What was that, 38-0 the other day? Much different tests coming up for them here. Not really a lot in the way of upsets. Georgia was up. I guess you could call that an upset by Tennessee. Georgia is a top 25 team. Hey, how about, speaking of the top 25, how about Toledo as they continue to climb and impress? They broke, last week? Broke into the top 25, and then they rolled Kent the other day 38-7, so you got to figure that they may climb up another spot or two there, maybe reach 22, 23, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I love to see it. They're coached by a kid named Matt Campbell, who is a Mount Union product. Was a grad assistant there after he graduated, played 4 years at Mount Union. It's my alma mater, so I love seeing those guys do well. He is, I believe, after P.J. Fleck, the Western Michigan guy, I think he's the second youngest head coach in an FBS program. I think he's 35 or 36 years old. So Matt Campbell's definitely a name to remember. He's taken what was traditionally a pretty good MAC team and turned him into a very good MAC team. And as we know, MAC, anybody that's successful coaching in the MAC, pretty soon is going to get a phone call from somebody bigger.
Absolutely, and that we'll see there, because that's definitely a nice resume that he's putting behind himself over there so far. I don't know about you and your Mount Union guys, my man, had to get that in there, but we'll talk Wednesday. Yeah, for sure. I love the Purple Raiders too. I think that's a great program, and I just unmatched string of success in any sport. I mean, go around. I don't know. You can sport you want. I don't know. I don't care. Go into European cricket. I don't think you'll find a team that has dominated for so long and been in so many championships as those squads have. We'll preview it on Wednesday, but does your gut tell you that Penn State, this may be the week that the Buckeyes stumble? You've been mentioning it for a while.
Well, I don't know. I just have they're a very sound team, and they play very good defense. I think, frankly, that the Buckeyes' loss, if they only have one, was going to come a little bit later.
The last 2 weeks, yeah.
But I think they're going to get the fight of their life here this week. They had to go to double overtime last year. Of course, that was up in Happy Valley, so we've got them in the right place. I don't know if you've seen yet. Have you seen the black uniforms the Buckeyes are going to be wearing this Saturday?
I have. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm kind of a traditionalist. I can't say that I like it. Seeing the Buckeyes play with black helmets and black jerseys with scarlet trim, that's going to be a little bit hard for me to get used to. But again, I don't want to be an old stick in the mud either, And I hear that the players love it. The players love playing in them. They feel good playing in them. And if they feel great playing in them, who the hell am I to criticize it?
Well, here's my thing with that.
I'm a traditionalist, but hey, the players like it, so I'm good with it.
And I'm with you. I'm a traditionalist too. I don't like if this was an overhaul, no. I don't mind, because it's today's trend for the alternate uniform once a season in basketball, or that's really the throwbacks, those different things. Like, I like that because, and it's a merchandising arm and you can make a few bucks. But if it wasn't Ohio State, I'm a big traditionalist, right? So that's my problem with it. Other than that, if I'm just looking at it as a uniform, I actually kind of like it. I dig it. I can dig the idea of wanting the black. And I looked at it and said, damn, it's not like it's an ugly I think the Browns uniforms are ugly. There's certain things about them that I don't like. Some combinations I like better than others. The one they wore yesterday, not my favorite, to be totally honest with you. I don't know. Something about the way those colors go together, just I don't dig it. But I'm with you.
Well, you got to figure that the pink really makes it look bad.
Oh yeah, the
breast cancer awareness week. Let's face it, orange and pink don't go together. And
that was
some hideous stuff they had on yesterday.
Did you see the articles going around? Now that we're totally breaking off of that, the articles that went around last week pointing out the fact that the NFL toots their own horn and does this whole month long, and there's nothing for bringing awareness. I'm all about it, but they do the whole month long breast cancer. Everything's in pink, and they make the bill that I read, and I don't have the exact numbers, so I don't want to get too much into specifics. But it basically broke down the actual percentage of the group that that they're working with. There's different groups they could be working with. Of what they're working with, their specific arm of cancer research or whatever. It's actually not what people think it is. It's a much, and the percentage, as you see this with other things, how little of it actually trickles down, but not only financial, what's purported to be and how minimal the actual donation is, but the people from the Breast Cancer Society, this was I think she was the vice president or one of the top spokespeople, said that the actual the campaign that the NFL promotes, they promote getting mammograms and breast screenings and whatnot, but the actual method that they promote is scientifically false. And I guess in the cancer world, it's known that is not, there's a different thing that they promote, different way that they, anyways, whatever they're doing, it's not even the more effective way of doing it. And it was very critical of the NFL basically doing a big decoration job, and it looks like it's this great thing. And look at the NFL. They spend a whole month doing this. But A, they're working with a group that doesn't send the money to where it needs to go, and it's a very small percentage. And B, they're promoting the wrong aspects of the actual cancer screenings and stuff like that. And she said, our fear is that people will see one of these commercials and think that this is the method of getting your pre-screenings, and actually it's proven to be scientifically ineffective. So they can't get it right. But it's just fun Halloween costume for a month of decorating everybody up in pink with not much effectiveness.
Right, and I'm no expert on this, Sherry, but I have read and I have heard that certainly there's an outsized amount of attention being given to breast cancer awareness versus other kinds of cancer and other more deadly forms of cancer. Obviously, breast visible, popular, and I don't know, maybe it's because, men like breasts so well. I don't know. But it seems like after a month of the pink stuff, it would be hard to believe that anybody hasn't had their awareness of breast cancer raised about as high as your awareness could possibly be, because everywhere you look, you got pink banners flying. So by the end of October, people are going, yeah, breast cancer, got it. And I'm not criticizing it, but I do understand, like you say, that some of the charity dollars are misplaced, and that we do, as a society, place an outsized level of interest in breast cancer as compared to other cancers and other more serious kinds of cancers.
No, absolutely. It just that's my part of it. What you said, raising the awareness, that's the part of it that I'm fully with, no matter what the technicalities of, because either way it goes, there's a huge raise in the general awareness because of the reach and the popularity of football, But anyways, that was just something I wanted to point out that I saw when you mentioned the pink there throughout the month. I thought that I saw that, and I said, "Wow, man!" I said, "That's people just see the pink, but then they don't." And that was actually coming from the people there. Hey, I want to talk to you. Switch gears a little bit. We'll come back Wednesday, talk some football and stuff. But before I let you go, got the baseball playoffs, of course, rolling. I see Bruce in the chat room updating me here on the game taking place as we go. It looks like Houston home run just chipped into that game right now. Kansas City leads still 2-1 in that one. But you texted me the other day while I was at my football game and said, "Yeah, so much for the Blue Jays pick," and that I guess started off 0-2 there. I was like, I didn't see the game. I said, "What happened?" You said, "Yeah, 0-2 here." They did get the one yesterday to get themselves a game closer. But what are your thoughts on the games over the weekend, and how about the Chase Utley slide and all that? Right now, as a matter of fact, I think he's going to be able. He couldn't have the hearing today because the appeal, so he actually will be able to play, and then they'll have the hearing on the suspension appeal. Did you think that was a dirty slide or what?
Yes, I did. If you're going out, basically they try to say, right, if there's no chance that you can touch the base, even if you extend your arm, and they have a pretty wide latitude on interpretation of that rule. But yeah, that clearly looked dirty to me. It clearly looked like it was intentional, and it was well out of the baseline, and it just seems like they don't have their ducks in a row. I mean, they've been the guy for 2 games, but it's not serious enough for the umpires on the scene to call a double play and call inning over, and basically, you can be as sorry as you want to afterwards and suspend them all you want, but it cost them a game, at least arguably cost them a game, and play. And I thought the umpires screwed up on the scene by not making the right call. In the baseball playoffs, I love the baseball playoffs. I was surprised to see Toronto, who had lose those first 2 at home. Of course, seemed like at first that the home team couldn't. I do see here that Kansas City went up 2-0, and they asked. I loved her. I'm glued to the baseball playoffs, and to my wife's dismay, she likes watching the Tribe in person, but she's not a big fan of baseball on TV. So that's just the price of being married to me, I guess. She's going to have to put up with it because I'm into the baseball playoffs. I think the National League is just about as compelling as it's been in a long time, and I know you're a Cubs guy, and they tied things up over there.
Yeah.
And, of course, both National League Series are tied right now. And everybody plays today, all 4 games today. A little bit unusual, isn't it, to have all 4 games going on?
Well, didn't they have one of those the other day, too, Friday or whatever?
Yeah, they did. And that just seems like, I can't remember in past years them doing that. I think it used to be, maximum 2 games a day. But
every other day.
I don't know how they're scheduling them different this year.
I think this is in response to getting it going, too long. I think this is part of that here. Why have these guys staggered in this first round when you can do it like this? I was telling somebody over the weekend, it reminds me more of the when basketball's you got that first weekend where you get all the games and everybody's playing on the same day, and this is it if you're a baseball guy. You got the run of games. What do you think? Does Toronto get it to a Game 5, or does Texas finish that thing off?
Oh, I think Toronto, comes back. I would love to see that. I want to see them all go 5 games. Actually, I'm kind of pulling for Toronto. I don't know that I picked them, but I, would like to see them. Would like to see them do well. People calling for an all Texas ALCS. I don't know how the rest of the country. I'm sure the networks might not be terribly happy about that, but.
See, I'm in the opposite. My picks, I've got the Royals and the Blue Jays on one side, and I think it's going to be the Cubs and the Mets over on the other side there for the see who heads to the World Series. So Toronto's got to come on. And that's what surprised me the most about that series is that Texas, then they got hot, but I thought, man, nobody's all of in the advantage, but there came Texas out and running, and now Toronto's got to dig themselves out of that hole. But I'm with you. It's been a good start to it so far, and I like the freshness. We talked about it all season. Hopefully the standings stay with some of these new teams. I like the freshness, the feel of having some different teams in the playoffs.
No doubt. Yeah, just having the Mets and the Cubs that we haven't seen the Mets for a while. Haven't seen the Cubs seems like forever. And the Blue Jays back after it's been 20 years since they won one, and been a long time since they were in the postseason. So yeah, it's good to see that stuff.
Yeah, next year we can get the Indians in that list, and then it'd be good to see that too. But yeah, this is a lot of fun, and still a whole lot of baseball playoffs left to go, my man. Man, we're in that. It's all starting. You got Cavs basketball tonight. The Monsters started playing over the weekend. College hoops. Excuse me. When do the Buckeyes start? When does basketball? Was it late November?
Well, they just had. I believe they just had their media day or their media day. Is it today? And I'm not sure when the first game of the season is. They have a couple of exhibition type games, but yeah, they're going to be rolling here. They're going to be fun to watch this year. Very young. Of course, it's anymore. It's strange to say that a college team is young because they're all young with all the one and dones, especially of the top programs. But Buckeyes going to be loaded up with freshmen, and but they're going to be entertaining because they're going to be young but very, very talented.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Vikings getting ready to start too. Looking to get Cavs. They got another back-to-back here set of preseason games coming up. They only have one more set of those, and they're looking for a lot of fun time of the year here.
It's a great month. October is always the best because football's in full swing and basketball's starting and baseball playoffs going on, and couldn't be better for the sports fan.
Absolutely. You're listening to the Sports Fix, and it can't be better than when Dan Wilmar joins us, and he'll be back with us on Wednesday here. We'll preview the Buckeyes and the Brownies coming up this week, and we'll see what's going on around baseball, too.
Sounds good, Jerry. Look forward to being with you Wednesday. Hang in there.
All right. My man, Dan Wismar, with us here today, and you know what? We didn't even have any technical difficulty today, so there you go, as we are happy considering the way the last few broadcasts have gone. I'm going to take a break, count my luck here and blessings, and come back on the backside and wrap this bad boy up. We've still got a bunch to talk about. The Lake Erie Monsters started their hockey season. There we go. I literally went in my head, baseball, football, basketball. Nope, hockey. There we go. It took me 4, but I got to it. Hockey season has begun. The puck dropped on another Monster season. Speaking of, Tony Brown's going to be with us later this week to really start talking about the beginning of it. But when we come back from the break, we'll talk about the Monsters kicking things off. We'll talk about the Cavaliers getting back into it tonight, set the stage for the rest of the start to the week and more when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Final segment of the Sports Fix. It's coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Listen to the Sports Fix if you want to be my lover.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix. Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. And no matter who you root for, everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Every Sunday, all the Browns action with Bud Light beer specials and $10 hair of the dog pitchers.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Plus, every Monday night, catch the Monday Night Football action with some of your favorite Browns players. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, base, have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnet, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the 9th, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing.
What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
This is the Sports Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. So that's what you call me, you know? That or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix as we're wrapping things up here. Another Monday in the books. Thanks to Dan Wismar for being with us. Thanks to you guys for joining us as always. And cannot wait to get back here on Wednesday. As a matter of fact, I'm not 100% sure if it's going to be Wednesday or Friday. I think it's going to be Wednesday, but we'll have to find out. Tony Brown's going to join us, the new play-by-play man for your Lake Erie Monsters, and we'll get our first conversation with him and our first chance to catch up. There's a lot to catch up on. Remember, when Doug Plagans last joined us, we were talking about all of the changes for Monsters fans. And you guys know we have been big supporters of the Lake Erie Monsters for the entire existence of our show. Love the Monsters, love what they do. And looking forward to talking to Tony, but looking forward to that later. But looking back here, when we talked to Doug, the change, I mean, this is an entirely new franchise. As a matter of fact, later on in the season, the old Lake Erie Monsters is going to come here and play the new Lake Erie Monsters, which I think will be really, really funny when that happens. But, the overhaul with becoming the new main affiliate of the Columbus Blue Jackets, I mean, so much great synergy can be tied in there. Plus, when you get attached to guys here on the Monsters and then they get shipped off to Colorado Avalanche, you lose them. They're gone. Nobody, no offense, but I'm willing to bet that there's 36 at best Colorado Avalanche fans that live in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's not exactly like you're being able to follow those guys. You can, but nobody does. It just, to me, you don't have, like here, the Indians. You watch a player start at Lake County. He's playing for the Captains, and you fall in love with him there, and then you can follow him, and you can follow him to Akron. You can follow him to Columbus. These are all right here, and you follow him all the way up to the big league team in Cleveland, and you get to know players better. You get an attachment to players, so of course that's going to help draw attendance-wise when these guys get to the next level. There's so many tie-ins, so much familiarity. It opens things up for the NHL more here in Cleveland because it's a hell of a lot easier to cross-promote a team from Columbus than a team from across the entire country. So there's lots of good things as far as strategically that it can do to help, but I mean it starts with an entirely new squad here. And as I said, Tony's going to join us later on this week, and we'll introduce you guys to him, and I'll introduce myself to him here, and we'll have some fun catching you up on the Monsters. They started their season and dropped the first game of the season 6-3 to the Rochester Americans. It was a tough start to the season. Rochester jumped out 2-0. They were up 3-1 after just one period, and the Monsters got things going a little bit, tied the game up at 3 at the end of the second period. They were able to pull their way back into it, but unfortunately the Rochester Americans pulled ahead and then added a goal late. I think there was an empty net goal at the end of it, as Matt Ellis had a hat trick for the Rochester Americans. Monsters, they outshot Rochester by 14 shots, and new Monsters goalie Anton Forsberg stopped 18 of 23, but it wasn't enough for the Monsters to get a victory to start the season. They'll be back at the Q starting things off. That's why I said I'm not sure if Tony's going to be with us Wednesday or Friday. He may want to be here Friday and talk to us live from the Q as the Monsters are preparing to start the home portion of their season here. They've got Iowa double shot at the Q next Friday, this coming Friday, and Saturday. So we'll talk to Tony about that. We'll go through the roster, kind of get you familiar with all the new faces that you're going to see here for your Lake Erie Monsters as they begin another season of Monsters hockey down in the frozen part of the Q. And hockey as well. The parent club, the Blue Jackets, got started, but it was not a good weekend for them. The New York Rangers took both meetings between the Jackets and the Rangers here this weekend, so just going to need to call the restart on the season, take a breath, and then come back and try it again. Tough weekend for them, but long season. We've only just begun here for both of those squads. We'll be talking Blue Jackets and Monsters, I'm sure, quite a bit this season with Tony Brown as he joins us. And at some point, I got to get Doug Plagans back in. I saw he sent out a picture, was it yesterday or this morning? First road trip, getting on the big jet and heading out with the team, and first major league road trip for our friend Doug Plagans now that he's down there in Florida in the NHL. So you guys, we'll talk about that here later this week with Tony Brown from the Lake Erie Monsters. Cavaliers, speaking of the Q, they're getting back at the preseason schedule. Remember, kind of an awkward schedule. 3 sets of back-to-back games, and then there's a straggler down at the end of the preseason. Tonight starts the next one of those. Mo Williams, J.R. Smith won't play tonight. The rest of the squad that is healthy and playing should. No Kevin Love just yet. Kevin Love back. He worked out over the weekend, and he got in his first practices since the playoffs the other day, and had his chance to get loose, but they're not going to put him out there just yet with the team. And put him out there for the first couple of games. He will be back, I believe, Thursday for the next set there, and that'll be his first in-game action here. But you won't see Williams, you won't see Smith tonight. The Cavaliers are kind of, and really with the depth that they've got, I was thinking about it. They've really got the luxury, if they want, to give a different veteran player the night off every single game and rotate it throughout. I mean, you've got 6 or 7 maintenance guys: LeBron, Mo Williams, J.R. Smith, Varejao. You go through the list of guys. I mean, Mozgov's got some injury issues coming in, not just age-wise, but guys that need certain body maintenance taken care of. You've got the rotation. You're deep enough at every position that you can do that, and that's good, because think about it. If you get every one of those players 5-6 days off throughout the season in addition to the regularly scheduled program, they're all that much fresher. They've all played a week less than everybody else they're going to meet in the playoffs, and I think that's kind of the general plan here for the Cavaliers. J.R. Smith, he's out with an injury. He's got a tight left hamstring, happened in practice the other day. He didn't play in Philly, and he hasn't practiced since then, so he's going to be out. You don't want to have him pushing too hard on anything here, so neither one of those guys will be out there. And as Coach Blatt said, it doesn't matter who plays today, doesn't matter who plays next week. It's who shows up healthy on October 27th. So tonight, Cavaliers and the Memphis Grizzlies. And LeBron will play tonight. With these back-to-backs, the Cavs have had this barnstorming kind of thing going. They were in Dayton last week. They're at the Shot this week here, Ohio State, Shot and Sign Center there. And, of course, LeBron playing the barnstorming part of the games, and as Coach Blatt said, we'll figure out tomorrow. That means LeBron will not be playing here in Cleveland tomorrow, but he will play tonight for the Cavaliers against the Grizzlies. Tonight, what do we got? 7 p.m. tip-off, Value City Arena at the Shotty there. Game's on TV, it's on the radio as well, and the Cavaliers looks like they're going to most definitely like I said, sit out Smith, sit out Williams. Obviously, Kyrie, Shumpert, Kevin Love, all out for the Cavaliers. Then tomorrow, they jump at the queue with the Milwaukee Bucks. So we'll be back Wednesday, and we'll talk about this set of back-to-backs as they're that much closer to the start of the regular season. And then they've got another set coming up at the end of the week. They come off the weekend. You've got the one, and then, man, we're rolling. October 27th. We are 15 days away from the tip-off of the NBA season. 2 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be tipping this bad boy off, and then it's off and running with another Cavs season. I'm all in. I don't know about you, but I am all in. Hey, guys, we're going to call this the end of the day. Great show today for you guys, and we'll be back here on Wednesday. We'll have Dan Wismar back in the conversation. Hopefully, Tony Brown is with us from the Lake Erie Monsters, giving you a little season preview and getting you set for the home opener for the Lake Erie Monsters, which is coming up this weekend as well. Who knows who may be here? We'll see. Perhaps my man Dr. Football stops in. A lot to do. Plus, later on in the week, Mike Brandenberry, Jonathan Knight, B.J. Riddell. A lot to get into, guys. We're going to call it a day. Enjoy a day full of Major League Baseball playoffs and Cavaliers hoops for the next couple of days, and that'll keep you plenty busy until we get back here on Wednesday. Talk about it all and do the thing, baby, right here live. Same bat time, same bat channel, noon, across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. Thank you, as always, for being here. Kicking ass another day, and we'll be back here Wednesday to do it again live, noon. See you then, right here on the Sports Fix.
This is MGK's, yeah. Shouts out to St. Clair, Uptown, yes, y'all. Heading to the flex, get it popping up with Steph Flaws. Old State Monster, this the home of King James. We are not the Empire, but this is where the Kings play. Cleveland, let's go.
We rep our city. Blue lights separate the ground from the gritty. Red sick fitted, hood pass cover any city that we visit. Winnie up from Cleveland. Survivals of my streets, we hustle, don't sleep, out here in Cleveland, Cleveland, Cleveland.
Okay, now here we go. Welcome
Welcome to the Cleveland show, but this ain't no cartoon. Reality is all we know. You're tuning in to Bravo. Yeah, you hear me everywhere, but it's only one of me. Let me make that very clear. Yeah, I'm from that terminal. You can see the lake from here. Faith in my teams, we keep getting closer every year. But we got the king, though, so hopefully we overcome. Yes, I have a dream, and I know I ain't the only one. Armadale tried to steal my heart, but we brought it back. Thanks to Cleveland Clinic, now they call them Kiss the Cardiac. Rock Cars, Science Center, Tower City, all of that. Warehouse District, Euclid Corridor, and all the flat. You know that I'm a Tribes fan, and I love Slimans. Crockett Park's the perfect place for me to spend some time in. Baby, this is Cleveland. It is so much more to us. You can even go to Severance Hall to see an orchestra.
Cleveland.